Let's have a look at all the powers and the items that are available for Orisa in Overwatch 2 Stadium. In this series of videos, we take a look at all of the hero items and the powers for the heroes that are currently available in Overwatch 2 Stadium. Today we're taking a look at the horsey, Orisa. And this is the horsey, the rubber ducky horsey. So let's start out with the hero items. In the weapon category, we actually only have 3 rare items, and the first one is called Electrolytes. It gives you 10% attack speed, cover from being overheated 25% faster. In case you're not familiar with Orisa, when she starts shooting, she actually overheats. She doesn't really have ammo, so as you can see, it slowly goes into the red, and once it hits full capacity, she can't shoot anymore. You have to wait till it fully cools down. Without the item, recovery is not bad. It will require you to just kind of lay back a little bit. Unless, of course, we go full out, at which point she'll do some kind of animation. I feel like it's about a 4-second cooldown in that case. So let's see. 25%, that should be closer to 3. So let's have a look. We go full out. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, it is way closer to 3 than to 4. It's actually pretty reasonable if you do it with the item. Next up is Enhanced Target Sensors. Deal 25% more damage to enemies further than 12 meters away. I thought I said farther, but it says farther. Farther than 12 meters away. I'm going to try it without the item. Reasonable damage. We drop in the item? Yeah. Look at that. That is way faster. It gives you a little more of the poking capabilities. And then the last one already for the weapon category is Optimized Energy. 10% weapon power, which is quite important for Orisa. And critical hits reduce heat by 5%. Now, that is interesting. So I was just shooting the wall earlier when I showed it off, but the idea is, of course, you shoot targets. And headshots, critical shots, will always do more damage. Now, if you equip this item, those headshots are also going to keep your heat from ramping up. Look, it just stops it altogether. As long as you get headshots, that heat is not going to get any worse. It's just going to control the heat in your gun. That is kind of nice. That is actually pretty strong. It gives you indefinite ammo. In practice, of course, this is the shooting range. If you go into game, it doesn't always work out like that, but you know. All right, let's move over to the ability tab. Oh my god, there's actually 6 items in here. 3 rares, 3 epics. All right, let's start out with the first one. Arc Fighter. Energy Javelin deals 25% increased damage to enemies further than 12 meters away. Here we go again with the fodder. So it basically is the same thing, but then for the Javelin. It's just your right click. Let's maybe show it without. There we go. We got about 100. We equip the item. We're going to do body shot, not a headshot. Yeah, he's in the wall, but that is almost 130. Not bad. Elite Rotator Cuff. 10% ability power, which is going to influence her Javelin, her Fortify, the Javelin Spin, and the Terra Surge. It gives you 35% Javelin Spin duration. So, the Javelin Spin is one of her defensive abilities. You've definitely seen it. It has about an 8-second cooldown. Without the item, it lasts for 3 to 4 seconds. With the item, that's closer to 5. That is actually going to come in very handy, because if you want to be an oppressive Orisa, this and the Javelin Throw are going to be your ways of doing it. There you go. That is an Angry Ducky. And the last one is called Refraction Tiles. 25 armor, while Javelin Spin is active, gain 50% damage reduction from beams. Now this is kind of hard to show off, but you get the idea. Symmetra and Zarya are going to do less damage on you. Now Orisa is actually a bad counter for Zarya, because you will be charging her bubbles with everything that you're doing. Now if you can defend yourself a little bit against those beams, it helps out. It doesn't help your team though, but it helps you out. Alright, the epic ones, Effie's Theorem. It gives you 20% ability lifesteal and 50% fortify duration. Fortify is when she turns gold and she basically is immovable, cannot be headshot. This is where she gets all boss. A very important defensive ability. Now usually it lasts 4 to 5 seconds, as you can see. With the item equipped, that is a full 6 seconds. 6 seconds that people cannot toss you around, that they cannot headshot you, that you're extra strong. A golden ducky, come on. A 3D printed lance, 15% ability power. Energy Javelin cooldown is reduced by 15%, but each use will generate 25 heat. So the only thing that will use heat or that will create heat is your main weapon. Javelin does not. Unless, of course, you use the item, which will lower the cooldown, but it will create heat with the javelin. Let's see how much that is. It kind of jumps up really fast to 50, like halfway. So if you're just following up with shooting, that is going to climb pretty fast. But if you give your gun a second to cool down really quickly and then start shooting, it shouldn't be that much of a problem. But that cooldown is reduced to 6 seconds, which is quite insane. Because your javelin is a very powerful tool. The last one in the ability category is called Oladele's Copter Blades. Well, I think you can imagine what this is going to be. 50% ability power, and while using Javelin Spin, gain free flight and 20% move speed. There we go, helicopter Orisa. It's the thing. Alright, moving over to survival. We got a total of 4 items, 3 rares, 1 epic. And the first rare is called Charged Chassis. 25 health, Fortify grants additional overhealth equal to 10% of your max life. So if you fortify, again, if you turn into Golden Ducky, you'll also get quite a good amount of overhealth, which is going to help your supports to keep you alive. It just adds to that ability, to the survivability of that ability. Siphonic Spear. When you deal damage with Energy Javelin, heal 10% of your max life over 3 seconds. That is actually pretty nice. Let's maybe first take some damage, otherwise there's nothing to heal. And these guys kind of shoot like they are slapping you with a wet rag. The other ones are just overpowered, so we'll just have to be patient. Here we go. Javelin. And you can see the health tick in. And at some point, the passive takes over a bit. Now, if you can raise your max health, that is actually going to work even better. So, all in all, not too bad of an item. Next up is Solar Re-Energy. 25 health. After using an ability, restore armor equal to 2% of your max life. So that basically does the same thing. Because we're going to kind of take some armor damage. And then we do the javelin. And there we go. I mean, I don't know if these are going to be the big scorers. These are going to be the ones that are going to help you out. That are going to make the biggest difference. I think there's better ones, but maybe you have some leftover cash to spend. And then the epic one is called a Hologram Helmet. 50 armor. Now we're talking. Use Fortify. Allies within a line of sight gain unstoppable for 2 seconds. So this is basically going to spread your Fortify to your teammates. As you can see. Anyways, those were all of the hero items. Let's have a look at the powers, where the fun is to be had. And the first one is called Scorched Earth. When you overheat, apply burning to enemies within 6 meters, dealing damage equal to 10% of your max life over 5 seconds. So overheating in general is a bad thing, unless of course you turn into a debuff and you set everybody on fire around you. Look at that. Good God, that is just evil. Shield Divergence. When you overheat, deploy a barrier with 600 health in front of you. So that is basically the old Orisa, but instead of having a shield that you can deploy yourself, it will automatically deploy. You just need to overheat. And this way they just give you a bunch of tools to kind of, well, actually push you to overheat. Next up, Advanced Robotics. When you use Javelin Spin, launch an Energy Javelin with 50 less damage. Woohoo! I don't care that it's 50 less. That still enough. Hot Rotatio. I had to read that name twice. Javelin Spin gains 35% cooldown reduction, but now generates heat, which is the same deal as we had with the Javelin earlier. So you have less of a cooldown, but it generates a lot of heat. Now, if you combine that with some of the abilities where you actually want to heat, and if you will deploy a shield, then you'll explode and put a debuff on all your enemies. I don't know. I'm not too worried anymore about the heat. But just for completeness sake, let me show you. So the cooldown usually is about 8 seconds. And with the power, it's actually 6, but you gain heat. Now that heat dissipates really quickly, so. Spine Stem Update. Javelin Spin now deflects projectiles and grants 20% of damage dealt from deflecting as ultimate charge. So everything they shoot at me, I can reflect back to them, but it's also going to give me all charge. So the more they shoot into it, the more damage they're trying to do, the more of an all charge I'll get. Factory Reset. While Fortify is active, Javelin Spin and Energy Javelin gain 25% cooldown reduction. So we've seen both the Javelin and the Spin, what their cooldowns are. Gold Ducky. That cooldown will actually be lower. That will just give you that one moment where you can do a whole lot of damage and go. Come out of it and basically have everything available again. I think there's better ways to combine it. I think if you were being smart and kind of use it with other abilities and some of the items, you can actually make this work a little better than I just did. Hooves of Steel. After Fortify ends, gain shields equal to 50% of the damage received during Fortify. It resets when you next use Fortify. So at that point, Fortify just becomes a way to gain shields. In the case of these guys, that is quite a lot. Now, as long as I don't Fortify, that amount of shields is going to keep coming back. So this guy shoots me, the shields kind of disappear. We go into the armor. I step aside, let it kind of come back. The shields come back first, then the armor. There we go. In other words, just make sure you use your Fortify only when you need it. Make it matter. Restoratify. While Fortify is active, heal for 5% of your max life every second. Let's take some damage. Then we Fortify. And there we go. Not bad. It gives a little extra use to Fortify. Ride with me. While Fortify is active, grant allies in line of sight 30% move speed and overhealth equal to 10% of your max life. Now, the movement speed is kind of hard to show, but I can show you the overhealth. You can give big groups overhealth if you make sure that they're not too far away. Lasso. On impact, energy javelin will pull enemies within 4 meters towards itself. It is kind of like Freya's ultimate, I guess. It basically helps you to group people up. Anybody that's close enough will be pulled in and you can finish them off with your gun. Centripetal Charge. 25% ultimate cost reduction. After using Terra Surge, reset your abilities cooldowns. So that is all about your ult. Let's say we use a Fortified Javelin Spin. We shoot some javelins and then we do... Holy hell. And they all reset. Got them all back. That puts a lot of power into your ultimate because you get it back faster and it's actually going to give you the added benefit that your other abilities will have a lower cooldown. So that is not bad. Not bad at all. And then the last one is called Supercharger. When you use Terra Surge, drop a Supercharger that increases the damage of nearby allies by 25% for 15 seconds. So that is the return of our old ultimate. There we go. The bongo is back. And it lasts quite a lot longer than the rest, than the Terra Surge itself does. So, yeah, this is super useful. That is a nice team play moment. Yeah, I can get why Orisa, in some cases, can be very oppressive. And that was all for Orisa. Tell me, which combo of powers and items would you use? Let me know in the comments. For now, however, that was it. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. It always helps me out. I also want to thank my patrons and YouTube members. You too can become a member over on patreon.com/theomnicpost and right here on YouTube to unlock exclusive rewards. If you have a few minutes left, maybe check out one of my other videos. But above all, take care of yourself, take care of each other. Bye bye.